Hey guys, it's Melissa and welcome back to my channel. So now you want to know, what the world am I talking about? And we are talking about Chris Watts. Chris Watts is he's been convicted, he's taken his sentence, admitted murderer, okay? He murdered his beautiful wife, Shanann Watts, and his two beautiful little girls, as well as his unborn child. So Shanann Watts and Chris Watts were married. They're both in their mid-30s, and they had two little girls, and their names were Bella and Celeste. Bella was 4 and Celeste was 3, and they were expecting a child. It's been stated that they were expecting a little boy and that they intended to name him Nico, which was, I believe, in honor of her Italian heritage, is what I heard from 2 different places. Okay, so they were married, and Chris worked for a petroleum company, so he worked out in the field. He would leave every morning around 5:30, and he worked out in some fields, and he went to site, and then he would return home in the evening. Shanann Watts was involved in network marketing, and this is where I got involved in the case because I've seen like some of the funniest stories. They refer to her work from home job, and nobody gets it. They're like, what do you mean? Like, doesn't she have a boss? There's even when the police was interviewing Chris in the very beginning when they were trying to find her, asking, well, like, does she have a boss she calls? Like, does she have hours? She was in network marketing, so kind of similar to like building a YouTube business. She worked for home, she worked for herself. She had a product that she represented through a company, but she worked for herself. So what's really lovely about that is she did a lot of Facebook Lives and a lot of videos of her and the kids at home and living their successful work from home mom job. And there's a lot of great moments with her and her family, and even some great moments with her and Chris. I was brought to tears this morning watching a video where she was talking about how they met. They met on Facebook. I wasn't sure she wanted to add him on Facebook because she was like, whatever, like, will never meet him. And, you know, they ended up being together, and he was there for her when she was ill. And they sounded like they had this great love story. So the reason I wasn't going to cover this first is because it felt too close to home for me. Anyone who's from my original OG subscribers is like, hey, that sounds familiar. Yeah, weren't you like posting online about your happy life and your happy family and everything's so peachy perfect, and it turns out it wasn't? Yeah, I've been there. I get it. You know, I understand that one. So it is really nice though that there's all those great moments that we can look back and see. So here's what was going on. Chris and Shanann decided to get pregnant with their 3rd child. And after they got pregnant, Chris, who had been excited, was no longer excited and didn't really want to have this 3rd child, wasn't even sure if he wanted to stay together. And Shanann was just completely overwhelmed by this. She was very happy in her marriage. She did not want things to end, and she was really trying to put things together. At some point in time, she decided to go and stay with her family for 6 weeks. She went and stayed with them, and her intention was to continue to work on their marriage. I even saw that she wanted to do couples counseling, and she even went on Amazon and purchased a book about couples counseling. She was really trying to figure out how to make things work. She was really close with her friend Nicole, and Nicole says yes, they were having troubles, but they were working on them, and that's exactly what Shanann thought was going on. Now, in the early morning of August 13, 2018, around 1:45 in the morning, Shanann's friend Nicole dropped her off at her home. She was returning back in town, so she dropped her off at the house. Shanann went into the home where Chris was, and that was it, okay? The next morning, Nicole, her loving friend, was trying to reach her. She mentioned that Shanann over the weekend had been ill. She was pregnant, she wasn't eating, she wasn't feeling well. I tried to dig, I don't know if she was sick from an illness, sick over the stress, or if she was just having one of those bad bouts of morning sickness that last a couple of days. But her friend was really concerned because she wasn't eating and she wasn't feeling well, and she had a doctor's appointment at 9 a.m. in the morning, and it was a big deal. She was gonna hear the heartbeat, she was gonna see the baby, and Nicole wanted to know how the appointment went. Nicole, being a friend, reached out to her, wasn't hearing back. She eventually phoned Chris and said, hey, I came by your house, Shanann's not here, I can't get a hold of her. And Chris, her husband, said, I don't know, we separated this morning and she was going on a play date with a friend. Nicole's like, hold on. what do you mean you separated? Like, she told me you guys were working things out. And he's like, no, no, no. I told her this morning before I left for work and we separated. Nicole's like, okay, that's interesting, because Shanann obviously would have called her best friend immediately and said like, oh, my husband is leaving me. But she's like, okay, so where's this play date? And Chris is like, I don't remember. She's like, that just doesn't make any sense. She had a doctor's appointment. She calls the doctor's office and they're like, nope, she didn't come in for a doctor's appointment. She's like, this just doesn't make sense. She starts looking into their house. And when she's hitting the buttons, it actually on, you know, like on the front door, you have the keypad. She's hitting the keypad and she can get the door open, but it's latched from the inside. I guess she knew the code, or she got the code from the mom. But like, this is how close of friends they were, that like, I believe she called the mom of Shanann and got the code. So however she got it, she actually opened the door, and so she could open it this much, and she's yelling for Shanann, and she's like, okay, like, she's not here. You know, I'm really worried. You know, apparently she was... My kid actually said to me, hey, cut this part out of your video, but can I play Fortnite? I love being a mom. So she tells Chris, she's like, hey, look, like, I'm here. Apparently there was mention that she was diabetic. I don't know if it was pregnancy diabetes or if she was a regularly suffered from diabetes, but she's like, listen, like, there could be something going on. Like, I want to check on her. She's not here. She's not answering, but her car's here with the car seats. So it's not like another friend might have picked her up, because she didn't have the car seats. These kids were 3 and 4 years old. So she's like, it's not making sense. And Chris is like, yeah, I don't know. She's just not home. Like, she's with a friend. This case ends up getting so twisted. The police actually end up, she's like, Chris tells her like, hey, leave my house, or else I'm calling the cops on you. And her friend Nicole's like, that's fine, I'll call the cops myself. And she calls and she's like, look, my friend is not here. She's not answering. Like, this isn't weird. She gives them kind of the whole play-by-play. The police come out and there is an amazing video of the entire instance on the body cam of the officer. It's a very long video, so I'm gonna link it down below. There's a gentleman here on YouTube that does the most amazing videos where he analyzes people's body language. There's a couple things in there that I'm not sure that I 100% agree with him, but like, it's subjective and it's his opinion, and oh, it's really good. So I'll make sure I link that below. But in this video, the officer's there and the officer's like banging on the door, and at first the officer's like, you know, maybe she went with a friend, and Nicole's like, no, you don't understand, like, this doesn't make any sense, her car's here at this day. And he's really giving her the story. I don't blame the officer at first for not assuming there's foul play. Like, obviously a woman could leave the house for the day, but the officer starts to catch on that something's not right. The officer phones Chris and is like, hey, like, are you on your way here, because we want to check on your wife? And he's like, okay. And he's like, okay. He says he's 5 minutes away. And Nicole's like, look, he's been saying he's 5 minutes away for 45 minutes. Why isn't he here? Like, let us into the house. So the officer tries to get into the house as well, legally, right? He obviously goes around and looks for open windows or open doors. Looks really good. He can't find any way into the house. They finally, you know, the door to the garage has a code. They try to get the code for the garage and find out that that doesn't work either. So they phone Chris and they're like, hey, can you just like open the garage? Let us in. Like, let us get into the house. Like, maybe something's happened to her. And Chris like, oh, that doesn't work. The only way is with the clicker. So here's the deal. The house is locked from the inside. The little latch is pulled. So the only way that anyone left that house was through the garage. And the only way to get the garage open and shut is with the clicker. Guess who has the only clicker? Wait for it. Chris. Chris is the only one with the clicker. Okay. So now red flags are just really going up, because how did Shanann leave? And the garage door was shut when we got here. So Chris finally shows up at the house. I'm telling you, this took forever. Like, they're just waiting and waiting and waiting for him to get there. The officer calls, I believe, twice. Nicole's calling, everyone's calling. In the meantime, the neighbor realizes the police are there and is kind of like, hey, what's going on? And the officer's like, oh, we're just trying to figure out, like, they haven't seen her. Well, he's like, oh, you know, basically, let me go check my doorbell cam and see if it picked anything up. Chris finally arrives there, and as soon as he arrives, he goes around to the side of his truck, does something, and then he finally kind of jogs up to the door, and he talks to the officer for a second. He opens the garage door, and he just goes in. Now, mind you, nobody follows him because although they're worried about their friend, there is an officer standing there. You can't just walk into someone's house. So I think everyone was like wanting to kind of wait for a second, because I wouldn't have been able to stop myself. But then I realized if I saw a cop, I might have waited for a second. Like, who's going in first? Because somebody's going in. So Chris goes to his wife's car in the garage, gets into the passenger seat, looks at something, and then gets out, which I'm wondering, why the hell are you even in your wife's car? Like, run in the house. But he doesn't. He then eventually goes in the house by himself. Over a minute goes by, a full minute. The police and Nicole come around to the front door. They're standing there waiting. They finally yell, hey, can we come in? He finally comes to the door and opens the door. It's like, oh, they're not here. I don't know if he thought that if he searched the house that they weren't going to search. I don't know what he was thinking, but they asked, well, can we come in and look around? This was a pretty good sized house. It was a 2-story house. It was very beautiful. I mean, really, really nicely done. And it was a pretty good sized home. So they're like, hey, can we help you look around? So police and Nicole go in. They find that they are not there. And there doesn't appear to be anything moved or awkward, but they start seeing things. Her shoes are there. These are apparently a favorite pair of her shoes. Her cell phone is there. It's in the couch and it is shut off. It's not dead, it's off. They then go into Shanann and Chris' bedroom, and they realize that the bed sheet is gone. They go into the kids' room, Bella and Celeste, and both of their blankets were gone as well. So this was looking scary. The thing is when you watch the whole interview, or that, whatever you want to call it, like the initial, when the police arrive and they're talking to him, Chris is like, well, now we know why. He's obviously, his brain was going 1,000,000 miles a minute. He's tick, 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 trying to figure out what the world is going on. What do I say? How do I get out of this? But he's so dumb because, like, Nicole comes back, after they've been like half an hour, they're all frantic. Nicole's getting upset. Like, she's like literally just more like petrified over her friend being gone. And she says like, hey, do you think that maybe they could have gone to the pool? Like, it's a hot summer day. If my family was missing and somebody said, hey, do you think they went to the pool? I would be like, oh my God, check the pool, run, check the pool. Like, he's like, no. Right back into his phone. Right back into his phone. Like, just dismiss, right back into his phone. Whew, that one's crazy to me. So, one of the reasons I want to make sure I cover this case today is Dr. Phil's series, part 1, is going to come out tomorrow on Tuesday. And that is going to have a couple of revelations in it. And on Thursday, they're supposed to release the full transcript of their interview with him. And a lot of the facts are going to come out. And I know a lot of people are going to start looking, and they're going to want to have some basic information of the case. So I want to make sure that I put this in today. Now, I'm aware that after Tuesday and after Thursday, there's going to be even more information. So I do plan on doing either a live or a second video, and I'll make sure that I post that for you guys. But that's why I want to make sure that I cover this case today. And on this day, when Shanann and the kids are first reported missing, this is what they're doing. They're trying to locate Shanann and the kids. Obviously, they're talking to Chris. Chris is telling them that, I don't know, we're separating. She was going with a friend. I have no idea. Now, we talked about the neighbor who starts to look at his cam. And he goes and looks at his cam, and he's like, hey, like, my doorbell cam actually picks up a lot. And I usually, like, I've seen Chris leave in the morning, so like, I'm pretty sure I have it on my camera. So he starts looking through. Well, Chris normally would park his truck in the front of his house, and in the morning he would just carry his stuff out to his truck and then he would leave. But on this day, he actually backed his truck up into the garage. Not all the way in, but he had a truck. So the whole bed of the truck was in the garage, which is weird. Like, I've never done this. No, I take that back. One time, we were trying to put stuff up in our banister of our garage, and we couldn't, the ladder kept falling, so we actually backed our truck in. Yeah, that's an awkward thing, you know, back your truck into the garage. So obviously, you know, it was weird. And he put 3 things into his truck. But when the police were asking him, well, what were you putting in your truck? It was like lunchbox, toolbox, papers, nothing that he would need, literally like nothing so heavy that he would need to back his truck up in. So it's not making a lot of sense. And he loaded 3 things into his truck before getting into his truck and leaving. When he left, he shut the garage door. So obviously at some point, things weren't sitting well with police and they really started to have a lot of questions. Things weren't adding up. It didn't make a lot of sense. And obviously they saw Chris loading 3 things into his truck and 3 people were missing. So they pulled him in and they started doing more extensive interviews. And the first thing that started to come up was, do you have any problems? Is there anything you want to tell us? Do you have any secrets? Nope, absolutely not. I'm perfectly clean. Now, police obviously said, can we have your cell phone? Yeah, sure, no problem, here, have it. He is so dumb that he literally thought that by erasing it on his phone that it was gone. Like, do we all know this right now, by the way, that like Google and Apple and the world, like your stuff is not lost. Like it can be recovered. Let's not even, like, how dumb are you? It's there. So he gives over his phone and police obviously find out that he's been having an affair. Okay, so let's talk about the affair that Chris Watts was having. He was in fact having an affair with a girl by the name of Nicole Kissinger. Okay. I have a huge problem with women that sleep with married men. Obviously, I think it's despicable. I think if you do that, I'm laughing because I have a story, of course. We'll get to that one day. But again, even in my deepest heart of having an absolute issue with, you know, women who sleep with married men, I still don't believe in like completely publicly trashing a person for being stupid, basically, for being stupid in love. I mean, we all make just ridiculous mistakes. So my problem with the media coverage of Nicole Kissinger is that she's been really brutalized about a mistake that she made. And hopefully she's one of those girls who makes the mistake when they're young and then they grow up and they're like, oh, that was horrible. I would never do that again. I wish I'd never done it and I hope it never happens to me. Let's hope. But let's give you a little bit of detail. So they started having an affair, Nicole Kissinger and Chris Watts. And their relationship got so involved that she was even Googling wedding dresses. She even Googled the term, man I'm sleeping with says he's going to leave his wife, something along those lines. Chris Watts was also doing his own fair share of searching. He was searching things like, how do you know you're in love? When do you tell someone you love them? So obviously this affair was getting very intense and they were trying to make plans to be together. Nicole really thought that Chris was just in an unhappy marriage and he was leaving it. She did not know that Shanann was pregnant or that they had been continuing on with their relationship or trying to work things out. When she did hear that Chris was going to see Shanann to try and work things out, she kind of tried to even back off from Chris and like, you know, hey, don't tell me you love me, like go deal with that. Again, absolutely ridiculous. Like I have no love for this woman at all, but like I'm also not gonna sit on here and call her a whore because I'm just not like that. There was another thing that she Googled, but I'm pretty sure if I mention what she Googled, yeah, I'm not going to. But I'll leave it up for you guys. You can go Google, what did Nicole Kissinger search on the internet? And it had to do with booties. That's all I'm gonna say. I probably shouldn't even have said that. That is horrible. Oh God. My channel's gonna get shut down. Like the minute it gets monetized, it's gonna be like, well, that was fun. Bye-bye, Melissa. You say provocative shit. I am sitting here trying to be like Disney PG and make sure I don't say bad words. And then I just told you guys to go look up booty. And then you're gonna look it up and you're gonna be like, but I don't know how else to say it. Like, whatever, go Google it yourself. Okay, so let's go from that giggle to, okay, so let's cover this because I'm kind of avoiding it and we just have to talk about it. So what had happened is that the children and Shanann were missing. Police brought him into interrogation, Chris Watts, and they didn't believe a word he said. It didn't make any sense. They wanted answers that he wasn't giving. They were very concerned that he was a suspect right out the gates. Nothing matched up. He was going on the news pleading for his children, but it's weird. He's just kind of swaying and has this like dead look, like, if my girls are out there, I would want them to come home. But then again, we never know how somebody acts in the beginning. So I know that everyone was trying to figure out like, what's going on here? So police finally bring him in for a lie detector. And I believe this is day 2. And when they administer the lie detector, I am so love watching this stuff. Like, this interrogator was amazing. She's like, okay, since she's asking baseline questions, she's like, okay, so like what's really good is that it's very obvious when you lie, like your face says it. Like, I think, you know, everyone can tell when you're lying. So like, obviously if you lie, like it's going to be obvious. Like, I can tell because those base questions where you lie, like it's so easy to tell. Like, she really pumps him up to let him know like, hey, we're gonna be able to tell. So be honest, he's not, he lies. He says that, first he says he had no idea, that he went to work, he had no idea where they went. And he fails this lie detector test, like fails. And she's like, okay, well, like, obviously I told you we were gonna be able to tell if you were lying. And so obviously we know you're lying. Like, you know that, we know that. So like, everything's cool. Go ahead and just tell us the truth. And I like, that tactic is really amazing because it really puts you at a point where it's like, what do you say? Obviously they know you're lying. So he comes up with a story and he says that Shanann came home that evening and then let me just clarify what had happened was she had been gone on the 6-week trip and then she was gone on a work trip. The kids were home with Chris Watts in bed and she got dropped off at home and came into the house. So she was by herself when she came home, the kids were asleep. So he says that he awoke in to find, when he looked at the baby monitor, that Shanann was in there killing Celeste, their baby, killing her. Like, and that he was so shocked by this that when he went in there, he realized that Bella was also already dying. And rather than trying to save them, he flew into such a rage that he killed her. And then he couldn't grip with what had happened. So he packed them up and took them and, I want to say buried, but he went to his work site. So he's kind of like in the oil fields that's out in the middle of nowhere. And there's these oil wells. I'll post a picture because I'm not going to explain them correctly. And he buried Shanann in the dirt. And then he opened up the oil containers and he shoved Bella and Celeste inside. And when I first watched this, back in the very beginning, I literally had to turn the TV off. I could not. He like shoved them in there and not in like this pretty way. I'll post a picture of the overview of the top of this oil container so you get kind of an idea of what I'm talking about when he shoved their little bodies in. Horrific, just horrific. And so he tells them that he had put them there because Shanann, and he didn't want to tell anybody what she had done. And police, of course, are like, you've got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. He actually confessed this, not even to the police. The police left the room for a moment and they sent in his father, and he told his father that's what happened. Just absolutely ridiculous. There was no signs, there was no reason, there was nothing. Shanann was pregnant. She would not harm her children. So the story gets more twisted from here, and it just leaps and turns, and the story gets really twisted from here, and a lot of things start happening that people believe. I think what's really important to know before we cover anything else is that Chris Watts pled guilty on November 6th of 2018. So 3 months, within 3 months, he pled guilty. 9 counts, okay? 9 counts. 3 were for the murders, 3 were for the moving of the bodies, 2 were for harming children, and the final count was for terminating her pregnancy, for murdering their 3rd child, okay? He pled guilty. And I don't understand any longer why the family continues to defend him and put blame on Shanann, okay? He did it. Like, he's already pled guilty. And I get where they're like, oh, he was pressured. He really didn't murder the girls. Yeah, you don't want to admit that he murdered the girls because that's just freaking brutal and gruesome and disgusting. I get it. And I'm not saying that they need to come out and be like, we don't love him anymore. We hate his guts. He's a piece of trash. I get it. You don't have to say that about your child. I understand that. But stop. Stop with all the drama and the making the Facebook groups in support of him. Stop with going on people's YouTube channels and trying to get strikes against them and content and copyright. Stop, okay? I understand your heart is hurting. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in your situation. I would not want to know that my child was being brutalized and talked about all over the internet, but your child did something horrible. And I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't be covering this case right now. I wouldn't be covering it if there wasn't so much on the other side of people trying to put out support of Chris Watts. If there wasn't so many fans and people going crazy for him, I wouldn't cover it. He's a piece of trash monster. What do I give a crap about him? He murdered his beautiful wife, pregnant with his child and his 2 children, and then shoved them into oil containers. I don't give a crap about this guy. He's a piece of shit. But I get that they don't want that happening for their child. So here's what you do. Zip your lip. Don't talk about it anymore. Stop. Write your letters to your child, visit your child, take care of your child. That's all you need to do anymore. You need to stay off the internet. You need to stay off of social media. You need to stop sending out bandwagons of support for Chris Watts. He doesn't need your support. There's enough wackadoodles that are gonna send him fan mail no matter what he does. Let them support him, okay? Let the rest of the world hate him for the piece of crap that he is. Sorry, just true. So I see how long the video is going to get, and I know that there's a lot that I probably didn't cover. I know that there's things that I want to add, and I'm going to go ahead and add that into the part 2. So what we'll do is, if there's something you think that I really should have included or I cut out and you think that I should put it back in, please do me a favor, leave a comment below, let me know what you think, and then I'll make sure to cover whatever you guys think I missed, and then the additional facts that come out from the Dr. Phil show, because there's already a big one out there. There's already a big announcement that's gonna come out of the Dr. Phil show. They put up the clip today, and the tagline is that Bella begged for her life, okay? This means, we're gonna know for sure tomorrow, okay? What this probably means is that Chris Watts admitted that Bella was alive when he killed Shanann, because Bella didn't want something was said, I don't know what Chris Watts said yet. I don't know if he actually said the word she begged for her life. I feel it was probably something like she said no, she said stop. There has been from the autopsy that Bella bit her tongue violently, obviously in an effort to try to stop what was happening to her. We're gonna cover that, but there's already this information is coming out. So this is further confirming that Chris Watts killed those little girls, not Shanann. So stop. Whoever is out there bashing Shanann and putting out these videos in support of her, stop it now, okay? You are gonna look like a jackass. Go watch the videos, go read the transcript, stop, okay? He murdered these little girls. Just let it go. It is what it is. But that's just, you know, it's just, I'm gonna digress from there, because if not, I'm gonna get going on a thing. So do me a favor, whatever you think I missed and whatever you would like me to include in the next video, just leave me a comment down below. And again, hug your babies. Like, that's all I can say is I always just like hug your babies. Like when I'm done, I go hug my kids. Like some of them don't want my hugs anymore, but I'm like, just let me touch you. Like, I love you. And then just love your family, take care of them, and keep them safe. And I can't say thank you guys enough. So thank y'all so much for watching, and y'all have a great day.